Blog Talk Radio.
Committed no crime and bad mistakes. I've made a few. I've had my share of bad kicks in my bed, but I've come through. Let me go on.
And welcome back to Life Lessons Radio. I'm Rick Tocquigny. Thanks for joining us on all of our shows this past week. We had some very, very special, distinguished guests, and our guest this afternoon is no exception to that. We have Michael Perlman, Dr. Michael Perlman, who is a well-known Boston area psychiatrist and personal life strategist with a spiritual focus. He uses the law of attraction as a touchstone to help people reveal their divine self-expression to live the life of their dreams. Mike, welcome to Life Lessons.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted to be on your show, Rick.
Nice to have you, too. And would you be so kind to tell our listening audience about yourself, where you're from originally, and how did you get into the role as a psychiatrist, especially with the focus on law of attraction?
Well, let me say that I grew up pretty much in the Boston area in the town of Brookline and Massachusetts, and lived there, went to school in the area, went to medical school as well, and did my psychiatric training at McLean Hospital and taught at the medical school at Harvard, but mostly was in private practice. And essentially, I would say this path to the law of attraction journaling program, it all began for me about 5 or 6 years into my psychiatric practice, when I began writing down what patients were saying as a way for me to become clear on their thoughts and feelings. Then I also guided patients to appreciate contrast in their lives. Let me say that another way. The patients I worked with became aware of the distinction between what they wanted and what they didn't want, as I would ask them to clarify and write down how they would like things for me. This was a natural progression in my practice. For some time, I'd been journaling myself with the intention to find answers for my life. And what answers? Why was I feeling miserable, depressed, and anxious? Why was I drinking so much? Why couldn't I get it clear in my life about what I wanted and what I didn't want? So, Rick, as I asked these questions, I began to draw answers to myself. I attracted the answers to me, essentially. You can't attract anything you want unless you know what you want in the first place. And I was sent the answers I needed. In my practice, I would time and again listen to patients' experiences of relief and hope in their painful addictions, the principles and fellowship at their AA meetings. Around this time, I began to realize there was discord in my own life. So I sat down and confided to a friend, also a psychiatrist specializing in addiction. He suggested I attend an AA meeting. While I could readily admit to anger, depression, being miserable, etc., I mean, after all, I was a successful practicing psychiatrist, I didn't make the connection that I was attending an AA meeting. My patients were sharing uplifting experiences, but for me, the concept seemed alien. I didn't consider myself and my problems with alcohol as that bad. On their level or at their depths of misery requiring involvement in an Alcoholics Anonymous program. It simply wasn't registering for me to actually attend an AA meeting, and it didn't occur to me to ever consider myself an alcoholic. As a doctor helping others, I was truly blind to the true nature of my own condition, the misery and despair as a result of my own heavy drinking. When I finally attended my first AA meeting, and this is where this is going with respect to this journaling program, then and there, at that meeting, I had the epiphany of the two expressions of self-realization, one being spiritual and the other being the personality. I realized that I was indeed an alcoholic in my behavior, and on the deeper level, I came to the full and terrifying realization that I was indeed a fraud to myself and those around me. The discovery of my being an alcoholic and a fraud was disgusting, reprehensible, and completely unacceptable. However, for me, they were the organizing principles that allowed me to get my arms around the true nature of my corrosive thinking, feelings, and behaviors that had made so much of my life a good thing. Comprehending this was simultaneously frightening and liberating. However, this was the shifting point for me to realize who and what I was, what I truly wanted, what I truly valued, and further how I decided to live my life. And this is how the law of attraction journaling was born.
And what makes so much sense is that a professional like yourself went through the trenches with others and now have a process by which others, our listeners, can create the change that they want in their lives just by harnessing their minds to this through this path to self-realization. And Mike, at the end of every show, and we've done thousands of these shows now, we always say, be the change you wish to see in the world, and you're now actually providing a process, an approach to doing that through the laws of attraction journaling. So we're so appreciative of that. And before we get into asking you questions in depth about it, including the 4-step roadmap, the tradition on our program is to ask a couple of life lessons so our audience will know our guest a little bit better. And so,
life lessons of, yep, absolutely.
So I'm going to take these from the listening audience today. The first one wants to know, this first individual wants to know, if you being raised in the Boston area has changed you as a psychiatrist, and what is the greatest life lesson from growing up and living in New England?
Well, that's a great question. I think for me, my family background, religious background, I was raised in Jewish faith and tradition, but in a New England culture, and education was so much revered, and it was always the end-all and be-all to get involved in Ivy League schools and to compete in that level of academia, and certainly that involved in medicine. We weren't really doing much unless you were practicing at Harvard. And so the pursuit of excellence was always behind me, but it interfered with my own, apart from the competitive aspect of myself and being attracted with other competitive people in the Boston area, it was necessary for me to look at why I was so tormented or miserable or perhaps drinking too much. So for me, the pursuit of excellence on the one hand was absolutely inspiring, but it conditioned another reaction in me in that I wasn't paying attention to my soul. I was simply a human doing. I was an adrenaline junkie. I was ambitious. I could see myself as getting something done. I would say to someone, well, just put it into my day timer and I'll get it done. And that was the approximate cause of misery. So it was a mixed blessing.
Thank you for that. And one other life lesson, this particular caller wants to know that if we had your children on the line today, what would be the greatest life lesson that they would say their dad has taught them thus far?
Well, that's a great question. Each of them are unique. I have 3 wonderful children. They're all done phenomenally well and successful and gifted in their own ways with their own developing families. I think they'd say Dad was always there for us. And that was the sense that I always wanted to respond to their needs on the one hand in whatever way we could, financially, educationally, and simply be a good chaperone for them. However, I also wanted them to live from their dreams, to get clear how they would like things to be in their lives. So I would hope that would come across. I know my son is a teacher in the art field of coaching actors, and that's exactly what he does, bringing people into their excellence. So I know it's rubbed off on one, but the others are also living a life of great choice and freedom and happiness. And so that's a blessing for me.
Absolutely. And we're talking to Dr. Michael Perlman, and we're talking about the law of attraction journaling. You can visit lawofattractionjournaling.com, listen to Michael on his blog, sign up for a free to start your own law of attraction journaling experience. And that leads us to, Michael, tell us about the 4-step roadmap of law of attraction journaling. And I'll have to make you say this in 3 minutes or less since our clock is ticking, but share the 4-step roadmap with our listeners.
Let me do it this way. I'm going to talk about a journal participant, Steve. And Steve was a very successful businessman, and yet at the same time he was depressed and drinking too much as a way to cope with stress and confusion and managing the issues that arose in his business. He couldn't figure a way to be clear about what he wanted. So as Steve wrote in his journal, he could now really see what he was thinking, what was going on, because he was looking at his life from different perspectives. And one of that first one, is appreciating contrast. He started to make sense of those experiences that were discordant or uncomfortable. On the other hand, he saw those things that we enjoyed and wanted more of and develop it. And then further, as he began to write and get clearer and clearer, that was the second step of being clear. He was clear. This was uncomfortable. This sucked. This was angry-producing. On the other hand, in that sense of clarity, being clear, he opened up to an expanded consciousness. The sky was the limit. He entered into the domain of his intuition and his imagination. And in that clarity, he started to get more and more ideas of what he started to become a successful business owner in the first place. And that flowed more and more freely. So he was downloading something from the universe, which brought us to our third step, which is creating a compelling vision. And there you specifically focus by literally writing down and getting a clearer picture of what is your heart's desire. And the universe is available. You just simply open up to the intention and request and attract what you want, and it's there, and you write it down. And the key is writing these things down in the journal itself. Makes the airy-fairy spiritual dimension into the human realm, and then you can operate it on. And our fourth step is that step of surrender to the process. Surrendering to the process means you don't give up or let go in the sense of not attending to things, but you relax in that the universe is delivering what's needed, and you take those harmonious and reasonable actions that move you along to the process of bringing in more and more of your heart's desire and manifesting it, allowing it to manifest, and handling what's not yet quite right. And that, in a nutshell, by way of Steve's work in that. So now Steve was able to balance and organize what was going on in his life and business, and was able to interpret and reframe his thinking to be grounded in his vision and purpose, and was able to develop a clear voice that expressed his heart's desires. And that's in
that is about as clear and concise and captivating as approach as I've ever heard. We've only got about 1 minute left. It sounds like to me, Doctor, inside that is almost a forgiveness of oneself, and it says, be more concerned about the direction than the perfection. Can you comment on that?
Well, yes. I mean, you see, the first thing, the direction rather than perfection or forgiving. See, all we're doing is taking our thoughts and words that are flowing through us, and like minnows that are flowing through, and we pick this fish and that thought and this word, and we start to make sense of what the hell we're thinking about moment to moment and day to day. And as we see what we're thinking and feeling, we get to put it down on that journal page, and then we can reframe it. And what starts to happen, you become centered in your thoughts, your feelings, in the sense that they're your guidance, your GPS. Your soul really wants to channel itself to you. So as you are ready to listen and write down, it becomes more and more obvious. So issues of forgiveness, issues of direction, issues of purpose, they answer themselves. You start to intuitively know who and what you are, and the purpose is in essence, who and what we are, to be of service in this life in our own unique way that we're meant to express it. But you need to tell the truth about what you're thinking, and then reframe it.
You got it.
It's about
Doctor,
you and you.
It is just a brilliant approach, and would you let our audience know how they can find about Law of Attraction Journaling? And I promise that we'll have you back on another show. What is that website?
It is Law of Attraction Journaling, lawofattractionjournaling.com, and it is absolutely free. We have a Facebook group. We have Thursday seminars at 5 p.m., coaching seminars every Thursday. And you're delighted to participate and share your knowledge. And most importantly, please write in our journal. Make it your journal. Make it your life subject to the creative process. And you'll start to see changes that are undreamt of, and you'll start attracting your heart's desires.
Doctor, thank you so much for joining us. That was Dr. Michael Perlman, and please go to lawofattractionjournaling.com to find out more information. Start your journaling today, because this is the tool for you to be the change that you wish to see in this great world of ours. Folks, have a great weekend.